What's going on, everyone? Today I'm going to be telling you how to get your life together. No, just kidding. Today I'm going to be talking about shadow work. Now I know what you're thinking. Shadow work is for people who have their life together, and girl, I don't. And that is the first misconception I'm going to be talking about today. You do not need to have your life together to begin shadow work. Now, if you don't know what shadow work is, it's essentially just glorified journaling. And I know other people are going to try to make it seem like this crazy thing. Oh my God, I'm healing myself, blah, 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 blah. But it's literally just glorified journaling. It's healing your inner child. It's paying attention to the patterns in your life. That's all it is. And because of this misconception, a lot of people are super scared to start shadow work, which is why today I'm going to be demystifying shadow work and sharing with you how you can start in an effective way. I'm also going to be going over some of the misconceptions surrounding shadow work and pretty much the entire healing community. I want to make specific videos about some of the topics I cover, but I'll briefly mention them. And be sure to let me know down in the comments if you have anything you want me to go deeper on. Be sure to like this video, subscribe, and let's just get into the first misconception. Shadow work will not fix you. And what I mean by this is when we begin a healing journey, when we start shadow work, we tend to view ourselves as a project that needs to be fixed. Let's be honest, it's glorified. We're drawn in with words like shadow self and higher self. And this idea of a higher self can sometimes stunt your growth because you tend to idealize your healing, then accept where you currently are. You're not going to reach this pinnacle of healing and become this all-seeing God. And I really hate how social media sometimes portrays shadow work like that, because in reality, you are human. You are literally human. Now, before I continue, what is shadow work and what is your shadow self? I'm glad you asked. Your shadow self is essentially a combination of all of the repressed parts of you. And we usually view these parts of ourselves as negative, but they are inevitably neutral. Like, yes, they can be causing problems to your life, but the root of them is trauma. We all have trauma. And while yes, the degree of trauma from person to person can vary, I understand that a lot of you don't have access to therapy, which is why shadow work is a good way to explore yourself and explore that trauma on your own time. Now, if you have a lot of trauma and you don't even know where to start with all of this, I recommend therapy to literally everyone. I've been to therapy. I even want to go back to therapy because there's been some things in my life that I need therapy on, girl, bye. But yes, some things are too painful to revisit yourself. And if you can't handle your own trauma or you feel like you need extra help, I seriously recommend going and getting that help if you can. Shadow work is not a cure-all, and my video isn't a cure-all. But even if you're in therapy, you're going to have to do some self-reflection and introspection. And that's kind of what shadow work is. Shadow work gives you the prompts to pretty much analyze your trauma so that if you're having problems in your life, let's say you have a behavioral problem, right? You always cuss out your friends, or you don't know how to keep your cool. You might not know where this comes from, or you might know where it comes from, but you don't know why you keep doing it, which is why it feeds into your shadow self, because it's a repressed part of you. It's a part of you that you don't like seeing because it's not really that pretty. You don't feel good when you cuss out your friends because you're insecure about yourself, or whatever the reason is, right? So we build up shame, and a lot of the times we try to compromise with another positive emotion. Like, let's say we do something bad, and then to overcompensate, we are really good for a certain amount of time and everything goes back to normal, and then something happens again and all of this trauma comes up and we can't really deal with it, right? What shadow work helps with is it allows you to unpack that trauma over time, while utilizing those periods of where you're triggered or where something happens in your life and you don't really know how to cope. Utilizing those periods to help you become aware of certain things that you want to change in your life. So I'm not going to be giving you specific journal prompts in this video. You can find a lot of different journal prompts online, but I'm mainly going to be talking about certain misconceptions and the ways I like to use shadow work in my life. So number one, get yourself a journal. This journal doesn't have to be fancy. It doesn't need to be one of those keep month by month ones where you track how much water you drink. Okay, you don't need any of that. A lot of times self-development people love to sell you all of these things and whatever, but you don't need it. At the end of the day, you don't need it. What you do need to do though is start becoming aware. Be able to sit with how you feel, especially after something happens in your life. The role trauma plays in your life is it's like a filter, okay? You view your life through the filter that you were given. So a neutral situation in your life can be interpreted by you as something that you're triggered by. And when you're unaware, you're more likely to continue the cycle. When you become aware of how this external stimuli is triggering you, where you're feeling it, why do I feel so angry right now? Why do I feel so sad right now? Questioning yourself is part of the process. Another thing that's really important when you start shadow work is having compassion for yourself, okay? Every single negative behavior in your life comes from a place of your trauma. Once you understand that your actions, as silly as they are, once you understand that they come from somewhere, you can then start giving yourself the validation you need to let go of the trauma. Now let's talk about letting go, okay? This is something I'm dealing with a lot in my life, and you'll continue to deal with throughout your entire life. You're going to have to let things go, okay? Once you let go of one thing, you're going to have to find another thing that you need to let go of. That's just life. But oftentimes when we start to become aware of the trauma we went through when we're younger, we have a hard time fully letting it go because we want to play into the story. We all have a story, and I can make an entire video on that, talking about your story, learning how to identify your story. This video is just one video where I talk about shadow work. It's the introduction, but you are like a mosaic, okay? You're made up of a ton of different parts of yourself. So sometimes when you're reacting to external stimuli, right? A seventh grade part of you comes out, your preteen you comes out. Other times, 4-year-old you comes out. And I know that sounds a little silly, but we have to identify those stories and where those stories play in our life. And I can't do the work for you, okay? I'm just here to encourage you to go look up shadow work prompts. I can list some good websites down in the description of certain shadow work prompts. If you do have money to go buy a shadow workbook, that can also help you so that it's all in one place and you don't have to, go out and look for shadow work prompts. But there's a lot out there. You also don't always have to use a prompt. Like if something happens in your life, you can literally just ask yourself, why am I feeling this way? Like sometimes that is your shadow work prompt for the day. Why am I feeling this way? And you'll uncover things about yourself and you're like, whoa, I did not realize I was so unhealed. Oh my gosh. So back to your story. Once you identify your story, you then let go of that story by choosing different. Instead of cussing out my friends, I'm going to share with them my feelings and get vulnerable. And you might feel a lot of fear when you're doing something new, even if it's a good thing for you. The point is learning and growing. It's not perfection. And I hate how some people view shadow work as a way to, boost their ego and saying I'm healed and I'm this and I'm that, because all it is viewing your stories and calling out your own BS. I simply see it as a tool for self-love, but it is not the one that's doing the self-love. That's me. Shadow work is not the thing that's holding me accountable. That's me. Self-love and healing is a lifelong journey, and it's less about your external appearance, how you look online, sharing your healing journey to others. It's less about that and more about how you truly feel. Does this action that I did represent who I truly am? And it goes back to your intuition. It goes back to how you feel about your actions. Do you feel good about them? Do you feel bad about them? Is it okay to feel this way, or do I want to change how I feel? What happened to you is not your fault. It is not your fault, but it is now your responsibility, and you do have a choice when it comes to your negative behaviors. You do have a choice when it comes to your shadow self. And it's not always going to feel good. Actually, it's going to feel terrible a lot of the time. But your future self, your higher self will thank you. With that being said, thank you guys so much for watching this video. I'll leave some links down in the description for some shadow work questions that you guys should do. Be sure to like this video and subscribe. It helps out with the algorithm, and comment down below what else I should talk about. If you want me to go more in depth about certain things, if you disagree with what I'm saying, I don't care. Let me know. I'll see you guys in the next one.